After I had chronic fatigue syndrome for a few years, I was in bed. I had not earned any money for several years. And during a crash, I realized that I had not a single worry about money. Weird, right? But to understand that, I have to take you back to 18 months before my chronic fatigue syndrome started. It was then, during my very first meditation in life, that I, luckily enough, experienced a moment of non duality. And that flooded my system with wealth and abundance. So it gave me a lot of money, but it also gave me my chronic illness. So by the end of this video, you'll look completely different to your symptoms, your health, and your money struggles. Let's dive into this. So ever since I was a child, I had money issues. When I was a teenager, I had to provide my own food, my own clothes, and I struggled quite a lot. And that became part of who I was. So when I was 28 years old, I was fed up with everything. And it was then that I could hardly pay the rent, and I was worrying about how could I afford the rent for one more month. At that moment, I took a break and I did the meditation, and then I was just gone. In non-duality, there is no time or space, so there is also no me. But what I did feel was complete bliss, abundance, peace, and love. It was absolutely beautiful. And when I came back to this realm, I took that with me. And when I looked around, I suddenly realized that this world is an illusion. It's not real. I started laughing. And then what I did is that I went, for example, I went to dinner with my lost money, 20 euros. I still remember it. The food itself was 12 euros from the Thai restaurant, and I enjoyed it as much as I could. And then at the checkout, I paid, and I was like, wow, I am so rich that I can give you that money. That was all of a sudden the energy that I was having. And the next day, some money came in because I had my own company, because I did not really want to work in a full-time office anymore. All of a sudden, every month, my income doubled for 18 months in a row. There was wealth and abundance all around me. Yet after 1 year of this, I noticed that I could no longer relax. And I knew something was wrong. After 18 months, I developed a viral infection, a strange flu that never went away, and that was the start of my chronic fatigue syndrome. In that first period, I started believing in the law of attraction. But of course, I did not attract my illness. There was not a single hair in my body that wanted that. Yet somehow it happened. If you look at it from the law of attraction, most people think that they create their life with their thoughts. I disagree with that. I think we create our lives with our internal state. And the thing is that in my internal state, there was still a lot of lack and fear, emotions, pathogens probably representing all of that misery, and that was radiating outside. But now, when I had this artificially given state of bliss and abundance, my system was having all of these things together. But that new state simply did not allow that old state. So one of these two states had to go. And my body chose that the lack and the emotions and the fear and the old beliefs had to leave my body. So it developed a viral infection or something like that. Because that's the cleanse. So on a cellular level, my body started cleansing everything that was no longer representing that new state. It had to leave my body. So a lot of safety caused my illness. What happens is that when all of these junk and emotional states come to the surface, the brain perceives that as a danger and creates the symptoms. And that became a negative spiral. So I must admit that in the first year of having chronic fatigue syndrome, I was very afraid. I was fighting for my wealth to stay, and I really enjoyed that character that I was playing in those 18 months. But then all of a sudden, I realized that there is something else going on. I could not win this game of fighting life. And I started surrendering. And that's when I came again in contact with that feeling of safety. And by allowing that feeling of safety, I was safe enough to feel my emotions and to process them one by one. So that was the next step in my healing journey, to surrender and to give myself that safety again. And we can do that via connecting with the body, with the senses, being in the here and now, but also the knowledge, that the symptoms are just a protection mechanism and that there's nothing terribly wrong with you. And people can feel that. And only after that are they ready to release the negative emotions that are the opposite of that. But don't go too extreme with safety, because if you would flood your system with safety, then again, all of these negative emotions that your brain perceives as a danger would also flood to the surface. And that can lead to extreme crashes and extreme relapses, because we still don't understand as a society that you're not ill when you're having a chronic illness. We can call it like that, but you're basically having protection symptoms from the exact things that are right now ready to leave your body. Yeah, when you're having these extreme symptoms, pain and fatigue and financial issues, it's really easy to go back to the previous state of danger. And then you can be in a perpetuative state of stress, worry, fear, negative belief, symptoms, etc. That means that the biggest message that I have is to relax into your chronic illness and to start preparing for your emotional releases. Make these emotions safe by practicing them so that your brain sort of like knows, I've already experienced this once. It's okay. And then you need less symptoms. So do you still believe that when you relax, that everything will fall apart? And if so, I recommend doing that session about releasing fear. If you would like to find out more about the spiritual aspect of chronic fatigue syndrome and chronic illnesses, then watch this video.